Hey all. So, going into War 8 here, this is still from when I was on the road and basically playing war where I could rather than where I was comfortable. I'm saying that not to excuse any weird stuff that you see, but just to provide some context for me, maybe not being at my best. First up, we have Super Skrull here on this spaced armor node. The primary threat is electric defense, power burning you. Hulkling is, of course, immune to power burn, and so that's just not something we're going to worry about. There is a bug on this node that's pretty intense, and we'll get to that. But this is also very much a fight that Hulkling can win just by hitting the other guy until they fall over. Um, that is especially true because all of his charges are going to build faster as he keeps being immune to power burn. And it's also especially true because Legion here has placed an unduped Super Skrull, and therefore we don't have to worry about power gain sending him to his special 2. We have what feels like all the time in the world. We're also, of course, cutting through his armor with our Pierce buffs. My Hulkling being duped helps that. And here's the bug right here. Something about the way that special lock works, and I'm guessing the fact that Hulkling was immune to power burn as he landed that hit. That's what I guess not power burn, because this also happens where electric defense isn't present. But something about the special lock and his immunities is interacting so that he loses no power at all. Now, again, this fight is incredibly winnable by just continuing to hit him. You do not need to use this, but if I remember correctly, this fight was rather late at night. The lights were off in the house. I was at the top of the stairs for Wi-Fi, and I took the easier way out. Not gonna lie to anyone. Now, what I should have done before throwing these special 3s is I should have still hit into his block a few times to gain some Pierce buffs. That would definitely be the more optimal way to play this. But the important part is just that we are basically immune to all of the problems. When the falter does move over onto us, you'll see that I have a very strong habit at this point of running in the middle of Super Skrull's special 1 because that will trigger the falter but will not get you hit. There is space in between the hit events in his special. That's always something important to do there because then you just have the energy vulnerability for healing and you don't have to block or hit into his block or do anything else risky like that. So, like I said, spaced armor is also on this node, therefore the special 3 bug also exists on this node. And you are going to see that because this node is also bugged in another way. And that is the interaction between Conduit and Masochism. Because Masochism over time should actually be making this a bad placement for most Conduit defenders. But you can see there's a weird thing where that first one, the stun getting purified doesn't trigger the healing, which of course makes sense, right? Because a stun is not one of the named energy damage over time debuffs. However, you'll notice he has the permanent healing here, as though he still had an incinerate, a plasma, or a shock on him, despite the fact that there are 0 debuffs on him. That is definitely an artifact of the way that the node is coded. I thought that I understood how to get rid of it, and I would just need to parry again. And that as soon as we got back to 0 debuffs, that would get rid of the bug. I was clearly very wrong here, which is causing him to build some extra furies. And so that means that I'm going to need to knock him down and wait for one of those conduit debuffs to expire and trigger the code that says, oh, one of those expired. We should check to see whether he has any debuffs on him. I believe this is possible to fix, but I also want to just stress knowing what I do about the coding process for this game, because again, if this is the first video you're hearing this in, I do work for Kabam as a character designer. I understand how this made it in. The special 3 bug, I can't necessarily explain right now, but the Masochism one makes a lot of sense. Unfortunately, hopefully we can get that fixed just in time for Conduit to not be a factor. Such is life sometimes. Anyway, because that bug is making it way, way harder than it should be to play this node traditionally, where I would trigger Masochism over time, but not have to worry about the perma-healing, and I could just knock him down periodically and do damage that way. You could definitely win this with special ones that way. We don't have that option. And so I am going to abuse the crud out of this bug here, wait for the plasma to detonate, throw this, and at this point I'm basically praying to God that I have adapted properly to the unique interaction between these two faulty mechanics and that he won't heal after this. And he doesn't. And I'm like, alright, so now I see a path to victory. Now I just have to avoid this Guardian with 14 permanent Furies on him. And dance around enough to throw enough special 3s to end this fight. We have time. I'm no longer worried. I'm pretty sure that the special lock is short enough that we don't have to worry about getting enough special 3s in to chip his health down in time. But, man, what a weird fight. Like, I'm glad I was paying attention. I'm glad that I was able to alter my initial understanding of how the bug worked, because I did know about the Masochism bug. I was just a little bit incorrect on the exact way to remove it. And I guess because this bug is so stupid, given the other mechanics on this node, I'm actually really glad that the Infinite Special 3 bug exists this season so that I can do this. I honestly feel zero guilt about using one bug to get around another. So I'm sorry I wasn't more up to date on my my war videos, because then you could have seen this earlier, but doing what I can to catch up. Alright, one more. We're down to 6%. I might just be able to get him down with basics, we'll see. I forget if I even bother, or if I just wait it out, because I definitely could have hit into his block. Yeah, okay, I take the safe route. With him at 14 Furies, I think that's probably wise. If I go in to hit his block and he hits me in the face with a combo, I'm probably done. Alright, so, disaster averted. One of these days I'm going to have to rank 4 Hulkling, but he would be my 3rd Cosmic, and I don't have that many yet, so probably not next. So now you're going to see a couple of my duels, and that's just because I haven't done this in a while, and I consider this process important. When you're facing nasty mystics, or you're using somebody like She-Hulk who is very spacing dependent, and not necessarily one of the most common attackers, I think it's very important to do extra duels to just try and work out, like, how is the power going to feel? How quickly do I get backed up? If I get backed up, how screwed am I if they throw heavies in the corner, or can I get around it? How much space do I need to feel comfortable with the special evades? Can I evade Tigra's special 2 fully at the corner? I often can, but it's something that I need to make sure is still in my wheelhouse. That kind of thing. Exactly when am I allowed to dash back from her mediums without getting caught like that? So here we go. This is going to be... Nope. She intercepts me. I forgot that's how that one ended. I thought that was going to be a heavy in the corner. But that's okay. Because one thing that you will notice about my duels is that I duel a lot. I often don't duel to absolute perfection. Now, if you are newer to Tier 1 or to specific characters or fights that you've been assigned, I recommend you do. But I've taken these matchups before enough to not be concerned about getting everything absolutely perfect. Instead, what I'm worried about is kind of refreshing the spacing, going, okay, yeah, that's where that line is, that's where that line is. Oh, that didn't work, so just don't do that. It's kind of reaffirming those guardrails for myself, kind of reminding myself of which risks I might be willing to take in battlegrounds, but I cannot take in war, and just setting up that muscle memory, that instinct, to make sure that the fight itself goes safe. So there I didn't attack because I was really trying to bait out that special one. You'll notice how much Mystic Dispersion factors into this. I call that out specifically because I find that some people who aren't used to Tier 1 kind of underestimate the difference between 4 and 5 points in Mystic Dispersion, and you can see how much it leads to infinite special ones for someone like Tigra. I also, of course, got caught by a heavy there. Just wasn't able to dash back in time. Not the biggest deal because it's in a duel, but I just need to remind myself to be very on it. You'll also notice that I was trying to hold my special until I got backed up into the corner because I had this sneaking suspicion she was going to try to heavy me at the wall, which can be evaded, I believe, but I don't always do it. And so holding that special to throw it as soon as she starts the heavy animation makes that a little bit easier, and then there you can tell that I'm reminding myself where exactly in her heavy it is safe to go. So then I go ahead and call it. I decide that's enough. I am refreshed enough, especially because I always do my duels at a huge PI disadvantage, usually like 1 to 4 minimum. And as you can tell right here, the actual fight itself is more like a, what is that? 2 to 5. So just a little bit worse than a 1 to 2 ratio. And that is much, much better. I also, of course, have the Petrify from Mr. Fantastic, so that's going to control Mystic Dispersion a little bit. I don't want to use any other pre-fights because I do want her gaining power. I just don't want to feel like I have no control over it. We also have the Power Sting synergy here because of Mr. Fantastic on the team. That's not something that's replicated in duels. Take a lot of power on the block there. Go ahead and throw this. I thought that I talked about this in a comment on a recent video. I'm not intending to do the lights after special ones. Lights after medium, or after heavies, I find do help sometimes, but they are definitely counterproductive after special ones. I see myself doing it. Okay, I stopped it there, but that is an old piece of undisciplined muscle memory that I really need to cut out. You can see it helping there after the heavy sometimes, but after special ones, that doesn't work. What can work is tapping block real quick after special ones, but that is obviously not what I did. So I really need to just make sure that if I do anything after a special one, it is on the correct side of the screen. Cool. Power Stings obviously did quite a bit of work there, a full 36% of her health. Moving right along. I believe this is a rank 4 thing. This is yep, there it is. This is definitely going to be the harder of the two fights, because Tigra was much easier than her duel, thanks to us cutting Mystic Dispersion basically in half with the Mr. Fantastic pre-fights. She also does not have Protection. I don't think was a rank 4. I don't know. I'm not going to go back and check. Anyway, the thing that does make this fight easier is that we are allowed to freely parry. It does not have Hard Knock Life, it just has Under Pressure, and so we probably will get the Disorient on us here as we punish specials, or sorry, as we avoid unblockable specials especially. That sounded funny, whatever. But the point here is just that we do have some more control over the fight and over when we parry. Now, what you saw there was I was trying to avoid giving him block penetration charges. And so I was trying to avoid parrying and feeling like I had to do another light or medium before the special one. Because while that often works, I sometimes feel that the special button is a little bit sluggish, and I don't want to get caught by max limber, even though our opponent very well may not be running max limber. And so what I tried to do there was I was hoping that I would be able to intercept him with the special, but obviously he decided to block instead, and so we got hit in the face. Not ideal, we're just going to play a little bit more conservatively, and I'm going to give him, like, if that situation comes up again, I'm going to give him block penetration charges instead of risking that. But the other good thing about getting hit in the face, on strike counter nodes specifically, is that it does tend to give you power, and therefore makes the rest of the fight a little bit easier to play around as far as strike counter goes. Now, one other problem that I have here is that not all of my heavies have landed both hits, and so even though I have that built-in advantage from base blocking, I don't necessarily keep the advantage, because when only part of your heavy lands, you are of course missing out on some power gain for yourself. We also are making sure to land heavies even if it gives him those charges. You saw me throw an extra one there, because of course the most dangerous thing about Thing is for him to go unstoppable with like 40 or more Furies. The fight can end very, very quickly, especially because, once again, this is a rank 4, and so he has a challenge rating advantage. That said, it's all going quite well. I intentionally tried to wait there and block longer, because I wanted protection to go away before he triggered the final power stings. I was hoping that that would end the fight, and it did. So right here, you're obviously coming into this fight about 15 seconds after it started. I must have forgotten to record and then remembered. Honestly, I probably should have just let it play out. You guys have seen this fight before. This is probably early in the morning. You see me hold that heavy too long because I wasn't sure if the parry clicked in. Man, between that and the forgetting to record, you can tell that this was not my best morning. But it is Reed versus Mangog. I think that this fight is... You can die to this with a rank 3, but I do think it is quite safe. It's very, very difficult to die with a rank 4 Reed running maxed inequity here. I'm not going to jinx myself and say it's never going to happen, but it's such a safe fight. And you can tell from how quickly we threw the first special too, even though you missed the start of the fight, that we power started. Good thing when I'm having a bad day. We go ahead and stagger the unblockable and unstoppable there. I hit into him again, take advantage of the extra combat power rate from us having the Careful Study passive up to push to another special one, stagger that. Then I just have to be careful to make sure he doesn't throw the special in that tiny bit of downtime on the stagger. But even if he had, the fight was basically over from willpower reversal there. So yeah, just very, very safe fight with Reed. But yeah, that's War 8. I'm going to try and keep catching up. Be another video tomorrow, and I guess probably one Monday and Tuesday, and then hopefully we're caught up in time for the end of the season. Man, this is the furthest behind I've been in a while. But I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and I will catch you on the next. Until then, thanks so much for watching, and take care.